Hi, today we will study Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is about definitions. What is definition and why do we need it? We need a definition when we don't know the meaning of a word. So a small child may ask, what is a bachelor? A small child doesn't know what bachelor, the word bachelor means. So a definition is an answer to this question, what is F? In defining a term, we try to specify what makes something to be F or an instance of F. A definition tries to give us an information about that. So, what makes someone an instance of bachelor? What makes something to be a bachelor? An answer might be a bachelor is unmarried male. But standard definition of the term bachelor is unmarried male. And so definition purports to give an information about what makes something an instance of the term. There are many different kinds of definitions. One kind of definition is ostensive definition. Now, ostensive definition can be provided only when both the learner and the teacher are looking at a sample of F. The teacher can refer to the sample to teach the meaning of F. You can just refer to an instance of that. When both learner and teachers are looking at that, such ostensive definition is possible. For example, what is a car? I mean, how do you teach a child what a car is, what car means? You can just refer to an instance of that when both you and your child are looking at a car. So there goes car. Okay? And when a child grows up, ostensive definitions are the main way a child acquires new concepts. They are exposed to various objects in the environment or in the picture books, okay? And they are referred to various objects and associate those objects with the term. So ostensive definitions are, you just point at the instances of the word to be defined in the hope that the learner acquires the meaning, learns the meaning of the term in that way. You can see that the ostensive definitions have a limited application. For example, certain concepts are referring to things that are too far away or too big so that nobody can see those objects. For example, I mean, certain galaxies, okay, are too far away, so people cannot see them. So in that kind of cases, ostensive definitions are useless. So so that means we need a type of definition other than ostensive definitions. And most definitions, we define a term not by pointing at the actual instances of the term, but by providing other words. Okay. We define a term by using other words. Like that. Okay. We define the term bachelor by using these two words, unmarried and male. Okay. Of course, this kind of a definition will work only when the learner already understands the term unmarried and male. So, on the assumption that the learner understands these two words, we can define the term of bachelor by saying bachelor is unmarried male. Okay, so now how should we in general proceed when we try to define a term? That is I'm talking about definition other than ostensive definition. Okay? When we try to define a term by providing other words, how do we proceed in general? First, look for a genus concept to which F belongs to. In the previous lecture, previous chapter, we already learned the genus-species contrast. You remember? So when we can use that now to define a term. For example, when we try to define the term humans, the genus concept of humans is animals. Okay? Genus, remember, is the higher concept to which that concept belongs to. Okay? So humans belongs to animals. Another example is chairs. Chairs belongs to furnitures. Chairs is just a case of furniture. Okay? So the concept, the genus concept of chair is the furniture. Okay? Another example is pens. Okay? Pens are a kind of writing instrument, a specific kind of writing instrument. Okay? So the genus of pens is writing instrument. It's it's an abstract concept of pens. So that's the first thing you do. In order to define the term F, you first look for the genus concept. The next step is, remember, there are many animals other than humans. There are many writing instruments other than pens. So in the next step, you try to specify what differentiates humans from other animals. That is, in the humans, in the animal concept, there are humans and there are many other concepts. So you go to the genus concept, and then you try to say what differentiates humans from other animals. That's the second step. Right? So you try to say humans are animals, but unlike other animals, humans are distinguished by such and such characteristics. That's called differentia. So, for example, you may notice, or some philosophers said, Aristotle said that humans are animals, but humans are distinct from other animals in that only humans are rational. They have a rationality as distinct characteristics. I mean, it's kind of biased, but let's say, that's true. Okay. Then if you can define humans by saying humans are animals that are rational. Okay? That's how you define a term in general. Okay? You first talk about genus, and then you add differentia that gives the one of the most usual way to define a term. It's very useful to remember that. Okay, genus and differentia. Whenever you are asked what does a term, a word means, you try to answer that by supplying genus and differentia. Okay. In the textbook, there are instructions about good definitions. If you try to define a term in a proper way, the following are the rules that you have to abide. Okay. The first this is very important. The first rule of good definition is a definition should be neither too broad nor too narrow. Okay. What does it mean to say a definition is too broad? Well, it means that a definition includes more than what should be included. For example, if you define humans by saying humans are two-legged animals, this is too broad. Why? By this definition, birds, animals like birds, are also included as humans because birds are two-legged animals. So this definition is too broad, too broad. It includes more than what should be included. Okay? So it's a bad definition. Now, what does it mean to say a definition is too narrow? A definition that is too narrow is a definition that fails to include what should be included. For example, this example is from the textbook, but I will use it. Humans are religious animals. Right? This is a definition that is presumably too narrow because there are humans that are not particularly religious, but they are nonetheless humans. But according to this definition, those non-religious human beings are not humans. So this definition is too narrow. It rules out objects that should be included. Okay? So it's bad. So a good definition tries to be neither too broad nor too narrow. The second rule of good definition is try to state essential attribute or property. For example, what is a heart? Try to define it. Now, if you try to define heart by saying a heart is an organ that makes a certain characteristic noise, okay? And let's say an organ that makes a certain characteristic noise, only heart, and heart is the organ that makes that. So it's neither too broad nor too narrow. So this definition can pass the first test, but does not pass the second, this criterion. Because making a certain characteristic noise is not what really makes a heart a heart. It is true that heart makes such a characteristic noise, but we say that's not the essential property of heart. What is the essential property of heart? Well, presumably, heart is an organ that circulates blood. And that's why heart is selective. That's why we have it in our body. Okay? So this definition is better than that in that it states the essential attribute or property. Okay, let's look at another rule. The third rule of good definition is you should avoid the circular definition. A circular definition uses the word F in defining it. A circular definition is useless for someone who does not know the meaning. Of course, I mean, this, if someone asks me, what does F mean? And I answered the question by using the very word F. Such a definition is not going to help that person who asked me that question because initially he didn't know the meaning of F. So I should not use F again in defining the term F. Okay? So a circular definition is a bad definition. In addition to, I think the first 3 rules of good definitions are the most important, but in the book, you will recognize more rules of good definitions, such as try to avoid the negative terms, such as not, less, I am. If you can define a term without them, okay, in a positive way, that's better. Finally, the last rule of good definition is provide a clear definition, avoid metaphor and vagueness. And as I said, the first 3 rules are the most important, but you will see a lot more detailed explanation and many examples in the book. So I want you to go to the chapter 3 and read the main text. Okay. See you next time.